Hey, welcome back to Michael Tells. Today's one hit me right in the chest. It's about a husband who wasn't stupid, even when everyone around him assumed he was. His wife swore the guy was just a friend. His number told a different story. I'll let him tell it. Just watch how calm he stays. That's the part that got me. Let's get into it.
I want to tell you about the exact second I knew. Not the second I suspected. I'd suspected for weeks, if I'm honest. I mean the second I knew. The way you know your own name. It was a Tuesday, 9:30 at night. Maggie was in the shower and her phone was face up on the kitchen counter, next to the fruit bowl with the bananas going brown that nobody ever ate. And it buzzed. And the screen lit up, and the name that came up was Steph. And I remember thinking, oh, Steph from the running club, that's nice. And then I read the little preview, the one line they let you see before you unlock it. And it said, I'll never forget it. It said, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You looked unreal." Steph. Steph said that. Steph from the running club. And I stood there in my own kitchen in my socks, holding a tea towel, and I felt the floor sort of tilt. Because I'm a lot of things, right? But I'm not stupid. And I knew in that exact second that Steph was not Steph. Let me back up. Let me start properly. Because I don't want you thinking I'm the kind of bloke who goes through his wife's phone. I'm not. I never used to. That's the thing that still gets me. My name's Ron Whittaker. I'm 33. I fix lifts for a living. Elevators, if you're American, but here we call them lifts. I've got a van and a tool bag and a route across half of London, and most days I'm somewhere between a council block in Tottenham and some shiny office in the city where the lift's thrown a wobbly and 40 angry people are stuck on the ground floor looking at their watches. It's not glamorous, but I like it. I like that when I leave, the thing works. You press the button, the doors open, it takes you where you're going. There's an honesty to it. You can't fake a fixed lift. Maggie's my wife. Was my wife. Still saying is. Habit. She's 30. We met when I was 26 at a mate's barbecue in Leighton, one of those gardens the size of a doormat where everyone stood shoulder to shoulder holding a burger and pretending it's not about to rain. And she laughed at something I said, I can't even remember what, and she had this laugh that made you feel like you'd won something. I chased that laugh for 7 years. We got married when I was 29, little flat in Walthamstow, up 2 flights, radiator that clanks like a ghost every November. We weren't rich. We had a fun jar on top of the fridge, an actual jam jar for the deposit, for the house we were going to buy one day, with a bit of garden so she could grow tomatoes, because she always said she wanted to grow tomatoes, and never once did. 7 years and not a single tomato. Anyway. So, the running club. About 8 months ago, Maggie started running. Which, good, right? Great, even. She'd say she wanted to get fit before 30. And she joined this club that met on Tuesdays and Thursdays down by the marshes, and Saturday mornings for the long one. And she got happier. That's the part that guts me now. She got lighter. She'd come home glowing, going on about splits and pace, and this new group of people. And I thought, brilliant. My wife's found her thing. And there was a Peter. Peter came up early. Pete from the club paced me to a PB today. Pete's doing the marathon. Mad, isn't it? Pete this, Pete that. And I actually asked, over dinner, no drama, just curious. I said, this Pete, should I be worried? And I said it as a joke, laughing, passing her the salt. And she laughed too and said, Ron, he's 25. He's a baby. He's just a friend. And she rolled her eyes like I was being sweet and daft. Just a friend, Ron. Honestly. And I believed her. Of course I believed her. Why wouldn't I? You marry someone. You hand them the benefit of the doubt for the rest of your life. That's the deal. That's the whole deal. So back to the Tuesday. The shower. The phone. Steph? I didn't touch it. That's the honest truth. I didn't pick it up. I didn't unlock it. I didn't do anything. I put the tea towel down and I went and sat on the edge of the bed. And I could hear the water running. And I could hear her humming. This little tune she always hummed. And I sat there feeling like the whole flat was made of paper. Because here's what my brain did. And maybe you'll understand this. My brain didn't go, she's cheating. Not first. First it went, there's an explanation. First it went, Steph's a friend, and friends say daft things, and you looked unreal it's just, and I couldn't finish the sentence, even to myself. I couldn't build a sentence where that was innocent, and I've built a lot of things. She came out of the shower, a towel on her head, and she picked up the phone, and she glanced at it, and her face didn't move, not a flicker. She just tapped it and put it back down, screen off, and said, "You all right? You look knackered." And I said, "Yeah, long day. The lift at the Whittington again." And she said, "Aw," and kissed the top of my head and went to dry her hair. And that little "aw," that was the moment something in me went cold and clear. Because she lied without even trying. She lied like breathing. And I thought, right, okay. I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to throw the phone. Because if I do that, I get one bad night and 100 better lies. I fix things for a living. And the first rule of fixing anything is, you don't start pulling wires till you understand the fault. You watch. You test. You find out what's actually broken before you touch a single thing. So I decided I was going to find out what was actually broken. At first, I didn't snoop. I know how that sounds now, given where this goes, but I mean it. For weeks, I didn't go diving into her messages while she slept. I couldn't have lived with myself. And anyway, I didn't need to. Because once you actually look, once your eyes are open, it's all just there. It was always there. I'd just been choosing not to see it. Like the phone thing. She'd started taking her phone everywhere. Bathroom, bins. She'd take it to the bins, 5 in the evening, just nipping down and be gone 20 minutes. She'd started sleeping with it under her pillow, and one night I said, "That can't be good for you, all that by your head." And she said, "It's my alarm," dead flat, and rolled over. And her passcode changed. We'd always known each other's. Not to snoop, just you do, don't you, after 7 years? You know the 4 digits. And one day, mine still worked on my phone and hers had changed. And I only found that out because she asked me to grab hers off the side and read her a recipe, and it wouldn't open, and she snatched it back. Snatched. My wife snatched her phone out of my hand like I was a stranger on a bus. And the running, God, the running. Saturday long runs got longer, 3 hours. Then she'd come back and not be sweaty. I noticed that. A 3-hour run and her hair's done. I fix lifts, I told you. I notice when something's not carrying the load it says it's carrying. So here's what I did. And I want to be clear, I'm not proud of the sneaky bits, but I was drowning, and a drowning man grabs what's near him. One evening she was in the bath, phone on the bedside table. She'd got careless, or comfortable, thought I was cowed, and I didn't unlock it. I just picked it up and looked at the screen, the notifications, the way they stack. And there were 3 from Steph. And I thought, let's just test one thing. The next morning, casual as anything, over the toast, I said, "We should have Steph round, from your club. You're always on about her. I've never met her. Let's do a Sunday roast." And I watched her face. You should have seen it. She went, She did this little laugh, and she said, "Oh, Steph's really shy. She wouldn't want the fuss." And I said, "Go on, ask her." And she said, "Maybe, maybe." And she changed the subject to whether we needed more coffee. And I knew, because there is no shy Steph. If Steph existed, Steph would come for a roast. Everybody comes for a roast. But you can't invite a Peter round for a Sunday roast and sit him across the table from your husband, can you? The number. You want to know about the number. The number's the bit that finished me, honestly, more than any message. It was a Thursday. Club night. She'd gone. And I was on the sofa, and I did the thing I swore I wouldn't. I went into the little cupboard in the hall where we keep the old chargers and the tangle of cables, because I remembered she had an old phone in there, her last one, the cracked one that she never wiped, and it still had a bit of charge, and it still opened on the old passcode, the one from before she got secretive. And her old contacts had synced across at some point, the way they do, and I scrolled to Steph, and there she was. Steph, no last name, and I pressed on the number. And then I did the only clever thing I did in this whole sorry business. I opened a browser and I typed the number into the search bar, because everyone's online somewhere. Everyone's number is attached to something, a marketplace ad, a five-a-side football listing, a Just Giving page. And it came up, a charity run, a photo, a lad, 25, grinning, arms round two other lads, medals on their chests. "Great day, boys!" And the name under it, Peter. Steph's number belonged to Peter. She'd saved him in her phone under a woman's name. She'd sat there, I keep picturing it, she'd sat there, my wife, and typed his name in wrong on purpose, so that when he texted her, "Can't stop thinking about last night," and it lit up next to the brown bananas in our kitchen, I'd see a woman's name and think nothing of it. That's not a mistake. That's not a fling that got out of hand. That's planning. That's a person building a little machine designed to make me feel safe while she... Yeah. I sat in that hallway on the floor with a cracked phone in my hand for I don't know how long. And I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I'd cry. I just went very, very quiet. The way the whole flat had gone quiet, and I thought, okay, now you know the fault. Now you know exactly what's broken. Now, here's where you're probably expecting me to say I went mad, kicked the door in when she got home, threw her stuff off the balcony, screamed the block awake. I didn't. And I want to tell you why, because it matters to me that you understand I'm not a doormat. It's the opposite. I didn't want a fight. A fight is easy for her. A fight, she cries, I feel guilty for shouting. She says I'm controlling for going through an old phone, and somehow, by breakfast, I'm the one apologizing. I've seen it happen over smaller things. A fight, she wins. So I decided I wasn't going to fight. I was going to do something much worse. I was going to be calm. For about a week, I said nothing. Hardest week of my life, mind you. I made her tea. I asked about her day. I let her lie to my face over dinner. Good run? Yeah, tough one. Steph paced me. And I'd say, good for Steph, and butter my bread. And every one of those little lies, I filed it away. Not out of cruelty, out of... I don't know. I needed to be sure she'd never, ever be able to tell me I'd imagined it. I needed it airtight. Because I knew what was coming. And I knew she'd try to wriggle. And I wasn't going to give her a single gap to wriggle through. And in that week, I quietly sorted myself out. I rang my brother Dean out in Enfield and asked if his spare room was free for a bit, and he said, "Course it is. You all right?" And I said, "Ask me next week." I moved a bit of money into an account she didn't know about. Not to be sly, just the deposit fund, the jam jar money, our money, so it didn't vanish in a bad moment. I found the paperwork, the tenancy, the joint stuff. I got my ducks in a row. Because I'd decided, when I say it, it's over. I'm not saying it to start a conversation, I'm saying it to end one. And then Saturday came. Long run day. She came home at 12:30. Hair done, not a drop of sweat on her, glowing, that glow. And she dropped her bag by the door and said, "God, I'm shattered. 3 hours." And I was sat at the kitchen table with 2 cups of tea already made, one in front of me, one in front of the empty chair opposite. And I said, "Sit down a sec, love. Made you a tea." And something in her face. She knew. Not everything, but she knew the weather had changed. She sat down slow, and she wrapped her hands round the mug and said, "What's up?" And I said, and I'd practiced this, I'm not going to pretend I hadn't, I'd said it to the bathroom mirror like a madman. I said, "How's Steph?" And she said, "Fine. Why?" Easy, smooth. God, she was good. And I said, I'd love to meet her, properly, because I've never met a Steph who runs like Steph. Steph did a charity 10K in April, didn't she? Round the marshes. Got a medal. And Maggie's face went still. And I said, "I saw the photo. Lovely photo. All those lads with their medals. Funny thing though, Mags, there wasn't a single Steph in it." And she opened her mouth, and I watched the lie loading. I actually watched it. And I lifted my hand, just gently, and I said, "Don't. Please don't. Because his number's saved in your phone, under her name. And I need you to understand that I know that. So whatever you're about to say, just don't, for both our sakes." And the room went so quiet I could hear the fridge humming. And you know what she did? She didn't cry, not at first. She got angry. She said, "You went through my phone." There it was, right on time. She said, "You went through my private things. Ron, that's a massive breach of trust." Breach of trust. Her. To me. And I remember I actually laughed. One sharp laugh, because it was almost impressive. And I said, "Yeah." I did. I looked. And I'm not going to apologise for it, because a man who has to become a detective in his own home has already lost something no apology fixes. You made me this. You sat in this kitchen and you typed his name in as a woman's so I'd feel safe. That took thought, Maggie. You had 100 moments to stop and you chose the version where I'm the fool. So no, I won't say sorry for looking. And that's when she cried. And I'll be honest with you, it nearly worked, even then. Even knowing everything. She cried and she said it wasn't what I thought. It started as a friendship. She was lonely. I was always working. The lifts, the late calls. She felt invisible. And Pete he saw her. And there's a version of me, a younger me, who softens right there. Who says, "Let's get help. Let's fix it. We've got 7 years." Because I loved her. I want to be clear about that. This isn't a man who stopped loving his wife. This is a man who loved his wife right up to the second he stood up from that table. But I thought about the jam jar, the tomatoes she never grew, the awe she gave me the night the message lit up the top of my head, the kiss, the lie so smooth it didn't even cost her a breath. And I thought, it's not the affair. People make mistakes, God knows. It's that she looked at me, at us, and decided I was someone to be managed, someone to be kept comfortable and stupid. That's the part you can't fix. You can forgive a person for falling. You can't forgive them for building a machine to keep you blind. So I stood up and I said, I moved the deposit money. It's safe. It's ours. We'll split it. I'm not a thief. I'm staying at Dean's from tonight. You can keep the flat till the tenancy's up. And she said, Ron, please, we can… And I said, you showed me who you were the first time you saved his name wrong. I just took a while to believe you.
But I believe you now. And I picked up my bag. I'd packed it that morning. It was by the door the whole time, and she hadn't even noticed. Which tells you something, doesn't it? And I walked out, down the 2 flights, past the radiator that clanks, and out into the Walthamstow evening. And it was raining. Of course it was raining, and I stood on the pavement, and I breathed. And here's the strange thing. I felt lighter. Not happy, don't get me wrong, I was gutted. I cried in the van like a boy, later at a red light on Leabridge Road, proper heaving. But underneath the grief there was this clean feeling, like a lift that finally moves right after weeks of grinding. You press the button and the doors just open and it takes you where you're going. No lie in it, no hidden fault. I'd spent months being told the machine was fine while I could feel it shuddering under my feet. And now, at least, I was standing on something true. Peter, by the way, I never spoke to him. Never needed to. He was 25 and someone else's problem now, and I hope, genuinely for his sake, that she never saves his name right either. Because that's the thing about someone who'll build a little machine to fool the person who loves them. They don't build it once. They build it every time. He'll get his own brown bananas and his own bright screen one day. That's not a curse. That's just how it goes. It's been a few months now. I'm still at Dean's. I sleep all right. The deposit's sat in an account with my name on it, and I don't know what I'll do with it yet. Maybe a place with a bit of a garden. Maybe I'll grow the tomatoes myself. If you're sat there and something in your own house is shuddering and everyone keeps telling you it's fine, listen to your feet. You know when you're standing on something true, and you know when you're not. You're not stupid. You were never stupid. You just loved someone enough to give them the benefit of the doubt. But believe them, yeah? Believe them the first time they show you who they are. It'll save you a jam jar full of years. Anyway, that's it. That's the whole thing. Thanks for listening. It helps, telling it, more than you'd think.